Welcome to episode 97 of Inbound Agency Journey. This is Andrew, and I'm excited to have you here this week. We've got a great conversation that Gray has with Johnathan Dane. Johnathan is the founder of KlientBoost. They are a PPC agency that has scaled to $300,000 in monthly recurring revenue in just 24 months. And in this podcast, Johnathan breaks down his process. He and Gray chat all about the journey that they went on and how they focused their time and attention during those 24 months to get up to that critical mass. And the key takeaway is this: how much time and attention are you spending on your agency marketing? That's the first step, because if you don't have prospects coming in the door, nothing else matters. So I'm not going to give away any more secrets. This is an awesome interview. Get a notepad ready. Johnathan shares a lot of great things about the processes and the strategies that got their agency up into that point. Before we hop into that conversation, this podcast episode is brought to you by Do Inbound. Do Inbound is process and project management for agency pros just like you. So if you are looking for that tool that gives you a framework and a structure to organize the way that you work and to make things repeatable, process-driven, because we all know we need processes to scale, but we also need to be flexible in terms of servicing projects. We also want to be able to save things as templates and move forward and continue to innovate over time. Do Inbound was built from the ground up with agency pros in mind, just like you. Gray and I started this company a little over 3 years ago after growing and scaling our agency, Guava Box. So you want to learn more about Do Inbound and how it can help you streamline your client servicing process, all by building off of documented, templated processes. Head over to doinbound.com. You can check out a demo there. Without further ado, folks, let's get to the interview.
Welcome to Inbound Agency Journey. This is the show where inbound agency leaders share the strategies, shortcomings, and successes they've experienced in their journey toward building their dream agency. Now, here are your hosts, Andrew and Gray.
All right, welcome to this week's Inbound Agency Journey episode. This week, we have the privilege and honor of bringing on Johnathan Dane from a PPC agency called KlientBoost onto the podcast. Johnathan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's rainy here in Southern California. It's not the usual, but we feel like the drought is being helped out right now, so everybody's happy.
Well, I love how it's raining for both of us, and it's surprising for totally different reasons. Here in Western PA, we're getting rain, but instead of the usual beautiful weather, we're getting rain instead of 6 inches of snow today. So little bit different climate.
Yeah.
But love it.
Cool.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and connecting. So let's start off just so people can get to know you a little bit. Let's start off with kind of your story and how that leads into the KlientBoost story, and then we'll kind of walk through like where you guys are today and dig into some of the lessons you've learned. But just hit us with your story and how KlientBoost came about.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So I'll give like the short version because I think it's interesting, but it's not that interesting at the same time. So I'm actually originally from Denmark. I was born and raised there. Came over here when I was about 21. I'm 29 now, and went to school over here and actually started doing like auto detailing on Craigslist. And that's where I got to figure out like how marketing was interesting for me. And I was able to create Craigslist postings that had images, before and after pictures, of like, waxing the car, not waxing the car kind of thing. And I was making like $300 to $400 a day on good days here in Orange County, California. And that's when I was like hooked. And then I was kind of tired of the hard labor, got a job as a customer service rep for a company in Newport Beach. And they then introduced me to Google AdWords and say, hey, learn this, figure this out. So fast forward, I went to a 2-day seminar in LA and learned more about AdWords. And I was like, at that time, I'm going to do this myself. So I actually used Craigslist again to push my PPC services, which looking back, I'm like, how the hell did anybody want to hire somebody from Craigslist to do this? But it worked. I got my first couple of clients from there. And then after school, when I graduated, I went to Utah to co-found another agency there, and then was there for about a year and a half, and then came back to Orange County, and then started KlientBoost in January of 2015. And like right now, we're at the 2-year anniversary. So yeah, that's kind of the start, like the quick story. Yeah.
Wow. What brought you over from Denmark?
So I'm half Danish, half American. My mom and her side of the family still lives over there, and my dad lives over here. So I never really took advantage of my dual citizenship.
Yep.
And I was over here for high school a little bit, over here for like grade school, a few grades here and there. But most of my youth and my upbringing was in Denmark. And my grandma, funny enough, over here on my dad's side was saying, "Hey, if you come over here and go to school, I'll pay for your education. I'll give you a car. I'll give you a place to live." And I'm like, "Oh, I can't
Oh,
say no
let's
to
go.
that." Like, and I actually played professional basketball in Denmark. So I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna try to make it over here and play college." Completely stuck to that, and it was completely different dynamic. But I stuck through it with a school, and so yeah, I took advantage of the offer, and now I'm here.
That is hilarious. How tall are you?
I'm only like 6'1".
Okay, so guard.
Yeah,
Nice.
definitely guard. Yep, nothing else with that.
That is awesome. Wow, what a story! I had no idea about. I haven't heard you talk before about the background of like Craigslist really starting like two different
Yeah.
businesses for you. That's
I
awesome.
was always under the idea like, hey, if I can get my feet wet with something that doesn't cost me anything other than my time,
Right.
let me go crazy on that front. And so that's kind of everything that I've done up until now, even so. And we'll talk about that too, like how we've grown our own agency without putting a lot of money back into the business. It's all like by just kind of rolling up your sleeves and spending the time doing it. And it's the same thing with Craigslist.
Wow. Man, that's awesome. Well, before we get into some of the growth story, let's get like a couple details about the agency, a couple rapid fire questions for you.
Yeah.
Um, so you kind of got the start in PPC. Is PPC, has that always been, and always is like, it's only a 2-year window here, but
Yeah.
is PPC like the only service or just the primary service? What are the
It's
services?
yeah, great question. It's a primary service with a sprinkling of CRO. So the conversion optimization. We actually have a 6-person in-house CRO team that does nothing but split testing of landing pages for our clients. So having those in combination has done really well for our clients and just allows us to get faster results too when we pair them together.
Right. That makes a ton of sense. And you said you guys are like, you're a 25-person team right now?
Yeah, 25
Wow.
people.
Is everybody in person, like in an office, or are you remote or a mix?
The only exception is we have one brand designer that actually works on the KlientBoost marketing stuff who lives in Florida. Everybody else is physically here in
Okay.
Costa Mesa, California.
Nice. Jonathan, was that an intentional decision to go in person, or was it like, hey, everyone I'm hiring and know is around here, let's just get an office?
It was intentional because I'm a very big believer in culture. And a lot of people here will like work from home here and there, but most of the time we want people to be in house. I want to create like an environment where, even though you might not have liked going to school, but like in high school, but now you kind of miss those days. I wanted to create like that camaraderie and that fun. So intentionally, like I wanted everybody to be, in house under one roof.
Awesome. Dude, that's so cool. So I mean, probably for most people who are listening to this, they're thinking like, you're 2 years old and you're already at 25 people. This agency is taking off. What's the growth story? How did that happen?
So I think from day one, my focus was kind of twofold. One, I knew that the barrier to entry of creating any agency is very, very small, very short, right? All you have to do is say that you are, you have a website, you set up shop, and then you try to network or whatever. You try to get your first couple clients, or use Craigslist like I did. And so there's so many, right? There's so many agencies. So how do you kind of cut through the fluff? And so one of the things I realized was what a lot of agencies, and I've talked with a lot of owners. I've talked with a lot of clients that come from another agency, and the truth is most agencies, marketing agencies, suck at marketing themselves, because all they have to do is basically work within the parameters that a client has already established, right? So maybe a client already has a brand, maybe they already have a blog, they already have a PPC account. And so it's not tough to push buttons and follow like a blueprint that you've set yourself. That's easy. But to really grow yourself, one of the things I realized was, well, one, what's a differentiator from like that we can set for ourselves compared to other PPC agencies? And one of them was actually design, funny enough. So we cared a lot about our brand, our look, our illustrations, all the small details, the About Us page pictures that you see on our website, the bios, all those things were like, hey, I'm going to be meticulously about. And And I don't know, again, it's very subjective. I don't know if that's truly the case that has helped us kind of skyrocket, but it gave us a strong foundation so that we can build brand equity off our own content. And that the content has been like the only driver, the only channel that has got us all of our clients that we have now, and being able to produce the results that we've had for our own agency growth right now.
Man. So we're about 100 episodes into this podcast now. I've been doing it for coming up on 2 years, I guess. And it's like a universal theme. If you're going to be successful as an agency, like, you have to invest in your own marketing. And I think the design thing is what sticks out right away. And your website is just KlientBoost, client with a K, KlientBoost.com. And I mean, you just see the design. The design kind of sticks out right away. One of the pieces that stuck out to me, I was looking at this, I don't know, probably a month or two ago. I went to the blog, and I see all the featured images on the blog aren't just images; they're animated GIFs, or GIFs. We don't need to get into that debate. But I was like, nobody else does this, like, and especially no agency does this. It's awesome. Right. So I love the fact that you guys embraced the design and marketing. And just producing this content, and that has been kind of the key to your growth, even as a PPC agency, that you guys are getting it, that you guys are getting a lot of that business through content.
Right.
What, I mean, I guess like the classic objection that people have is like, I need to take all of my, in the agency space, the barrier to entry is low.
Yeah.
And there's usually not a lot of fundraising that goes into this. So people are like, well, I don't have money to put towards, I need to put all the money that I have towards the client work. And then whatever's left is like, that's the profit as an owner. How did you, did you raise money, or how did you fund this early on?
So it was all like, as a person who wants to start an agency, or even if you have one now, you either have money or you have time, right? So if you're spending all your time working on clients and your profit margins are so low that you have no money left, well, then you're not in a scalable business model at all. Like, you need to stop what you're doing and think about, how are you going to build this and how are you going to grow this? So from day one, I always knew, well, actually, I read the book, The E-Myth. I'm sure you've read that as well, right?
Yes, that's a favorite.
From Dr. Gerber, and how he talks about, if you're going to build anything that's going to be scalable, that can be reproduced and kind of grow by itself, well, you need to put things in practice to say, hey, here's the so to speak, like the employee handbook, and here's how you follow things. So we didn't physically go through and create like a mission statement, a business plan, and all those things. I was always the type of person that said, hey, I'm going to value speed above everything else, and I'm going to pivot as soon as I figure out that things don't work the way that I hope they were, because I know there's a way to get everything to work marketing wise. It's just the execution that it comes down to, right? So from there, you only have really two options. Either one, you try to plant seeds off your business. And what we've done is, again, start from the get-go. And it was very, very slow in the beginning with our own content marketing, but it now has been snowballing. And you have to realize, too, that if you don't charge enough from your clients to have wiggle room of a certain profit margin, then what do you expect, your growth to come from, right? So one of the things that we did in our blog post, which was in our first year, I kind of did like a review and like what we learned and stuff like that. We grew from $0 to $100,000 a month, and here at the end of 2 years, we're at $300,000. And one of the main things that was from like that still holds so true today is that charge enough to never charge extra. So if you already set your minimums as far as what you're charging your client to say, hey, I have enough wiggle room to hire a person immediately after the first client, that's awesome, right? But you can't, it's kind of like the chicken and egg thing. You can't do that unless you've established some kind of thought leadership that allows you to charge that much, right? Because we were really fortunate with content marketing. A person reads our blog, they're so impressed by it, or the post that they're reading, that we're their only client, or like their only agency that can potentially work with them. They haven't reached out to anybody else, right? Whereas if we did our own PPC marketing, we would be compared to all the other ads of other PPC agencies that are on Google, for example. So, that's the biggest thing from day one, is that we charged more than the average agency out there, even if we had no experience or we didn't have any thought leadership or brand equity yet. I still kind of just did it and see what happened. And people, kept saying yes. So we just kept rolling.
I love that. Reading that post, that was one of the points that you made that really stuck out to me, because if you get a bunch of agency owners in a room, like it's just a matter of time before scope creep comes up, and then it's just complaint on complaint on complaint.
Right.
Just charge enough, and then people are like, well, I can't win business, and it's like, well, yeah, if your value proposition sucks, if you don't have any trust established or any authority established with your prospects, you can't win business unless it's price maybe. But if you've done those things right, you can still win business, and then the retention rate of clients where you're not constantly, we can't do this, we need to charge you more for that, is just a challenge. So I think that's an awesome takeaway.
It's super tough, right? Because I don't think this was on purpose by me at all, but I was very, very fortunate to say we're starting a PPC agency where things are pretty black and white. And again, like we're charging enough to never charge extra. So if a client want to do Facebook ads, or they don't want to do display retargeting or create another landing page, we would do all of it, because at the end of the day, if we found that launching this type of campaign or launching retargeting on Facebook was going to help them get more results, well, then it ties back into the retention, right? So maybe for that month, you're not making as much profit off that one client, but you turn a corner performance-wise that will make them stay with you for at least another 3-6 months. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter for you to be nitpicky about charging them extra here and there for these small things. And that's why that retention portion is so important. Like we can get clients, we have about 80 clients right now. We get about 100 to 150 leads a month right now. So a lot of them are not, part of who we want to work with, and that's okay. But when we do get the ones we want to work with and they're a good fit for us too, we make sure that nothing's holding us back. Like we want to make this white glove where if we think that we want to launch something and it's going to get them faster results, we're not going to wait and wait for them to approve us charging them more. Because most likely they're going to say no. They're going to say, hey, work with what you have and get me results first before I want to go, spend more. And that's logical, right? And so that's the biggest thing that I was like, let's eliminate that from the beginning and make sure that we don't nickel and dime anybody. But we charge them enough to never need to charge extra. And there are some clients on our roster right now where we're doing, above and beyond the work of what we originally set out to do. But, end of the day, everything is evening out. We're still doing very well.
Right. That's awesome. Well, I think that a mix of like strategic and really tactical stuff is really helpful for people. So I have just maybe a couple tactical questions on the marketing side of things. You guys are using Intercom for live chat on the front end of your website. You also, the Get Proposal CTA is kind of prominent throughout the site. The leads that are coming in, are you seeing a real uptick in live chat stuff, or is the Get Proposal the primary source of leads, or is it content offers from blog posts or blog subscribers?
Yeah, great question. It's still the Get Proposal is still the number one channel. I think the Intercom, like the proactive auto message, like chat greeter function that they have is super cool. We can talk about that. It just gets the conversation started, and then you kind of get people to de-anonymize themselves, and then they're more willing to talk because you've kind of got your foot in the door. So the biggest thing with the proposal side was, when it comes to PPC, most agencies want to evaluate or like audit an account, which sounds very negative and aggressive for like a first impression thing. It's kind of like expecting a client to give you access to their bank account. And so we're like, well, what can we do to lower the threat in the eyes of the visitor? We tried, get an audit or get an evaluation, get pricing, but then found that the Get Proposal was the most efficient one, just performance wise. And then the cool thing with Intercom is that depending on what blog post or what page on our site that the visitor is on, we ask a question that's very easy for them to answer and still allows them to stay anonymous. So at least it gets the conversation started. And usually in the past, I would have been, a lot of agencies will say, hey, thanks for coming on our site. Let me know if you have any questions. And it's kind of like that person in the clothing store that you kind of like, wave off because you're like, hey, I don't need any help. Like I'm just looking, you know what I mean? So if you're using that same methodology on your website, people are going to ignore you. So instead, as a person who works in a clothing shop, you might do better off saying, hey, we just got this new shipment of clothes and I think it'll look great on you. Can I show you real quick? They're not going to say no. They're going to sure. Same thing with your automatic greeters that you have via Intercom or whatever chat software you have. So you kind of either go for the jugular right away, which we've done recently and got a lot more people to reply back, or you ask them questions that are kind of give like a numeric answer, like, how soon are you looking to work with a PPC agency ? Or, what's your biggest challenge right now when it comes to PPC, as an example, and you allow them to answer, and then you just got to make sure that you're there to then reply, and then you can get the conversation started and see, again, if you can get them to give you their name, email, and phone number eventually, so you can take this conversation offline and over the phone. So those are the main two things that we've been testing here recently, and it's performing really well for us.
Wow, I think that's a great insight. Just the really specific question, as opposed to kind of the general one. Like the general one's almost like just a slightly easier contact form.
Right, exactly. And people ignore those because it's expected, right? So if you have a automatic greeter or automatic message question that's related to the blog post or reading, that would be perfect. Like that's preferable, right? Because you got to treat it as if literally like you are in, like your website is like a storefront, and you know that a person is in the Apple store and they're looking at the iPads. So you're not going to ask them, hey, do you have any questions about our products? You're going to say, right, hey, this iPad's on sale, yada, yada, yada. And then you're going to make it specific because you can read their body language in that way. So it's like a poor man's version of behavioral marketing right now.
I love it. That's great. Is there, do you have, like, do people take, like, hey, you're going to be manning live chat during these 4 hours, or is it just a group of people? How do you guys manage that on the back end?
It actually goes all to me, and it goes to the Intercom app. And so the cool thing about Intercom is that if Intercom sees you don't reply right away, it gives them the visitor the option to put in their email to say, hey, Johnathan will get back to you, or the team at KlientBoost will get back to you in a few, carry this message offline by putting your email address. So most of the time I have like 50 messages over the weekend that I haven't gotten to. But most of our Intercom message actually email subscriber newsletter gatherings as well. So we do use Intercom, Zapier, and MailChimp to connect all together. So it's kind of automated. So we say, hey, we're coming out with a new version of this blog post. Would you be interested? And most people say, yeah, of course. And they put in their email address. So it's a way to grow that email list as well.
Cool. Dude, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing those details.
Yeah.
If anybody's listening and you go look at Intercom, look at the pricing, and that scares you at all, look at Drift as well as a free to get started, at least, alternative.
Yeah. Another option I would recommend is Autopilot and Olark as well.
Yep.
To be honest.
Great. Well, let's shift gears here a little bit away from the marketing side of things, and to the process side of things, because you guys have experienced growth faster than the vast majority of agencies, and one of the things that comes with growth and success is also some growing pains and figuring out how to onboard new people and bring new people into the team and be able to service clients. What does kind of centralizing knowledge or processes look like?
So we actually use a tool called Lessonly. So it's actually lesson.ly. And it's just a week-long kind of get your feet wet kind of thing. It doesn't do much. It's kind of like reading the rule. Anything you do onboarding-wise that's a training program, like treat it as a sport, right? If you never played it, or like you're listening to the rules of a board game for the first time, you're all say, okay, F it. Like, let's just get going. I'll learn as we go. That's more the approach that we take. So we're saying we want you to be part of kickoff calls. We want you to be part of regular client weekly calls. We want you to be able to send the updates and reports. So a new hire from the PPC side is actually kind of like a leech, so to speak, on a current account manager. And the only goal of that person is to help the current account manager out, and then by osmosis learning themselves. And that's very non-structured, but it's kind of, you put a person in the deep end of the pool and say, hey, learn how to swim as fast as you can. And that's kind of like the tough love approach that we have here so far. Now, I think over time, we'll make that more formal, but so far it's been working really well. But at the same time, like you said, with the growing pains, we've done so many pivots and just saying, oh yeah, this doesn't work well, or we get feedback from a client, or we purposely reach out to them for feedback and want to get their honest opinion on certain things and how we adjust there too. So most of the things that we're doing now are just like, how do we get smarter, for retention rates to improve and things like that as well. And so we can talk about that too. But yeah, it's pretty. They go through that Lessonly program, and then they kind of just go into battle with an account manager, and that's how they learn.
Wow, I like that. Beyond the onboarding phase, do you guys have like a documented, hey, here's what here, obviously there are things that are going to be customized on a per client basis, but generally speaking, someone comes on for PPC and CRO, here are the processes that we take them through. Is that stuff documented, or do they just kind of learn that through that onboarding experience?
A little bit through the onboarding experience. And then also like I've done, it's funny because most of like the webinars or speaking engagements I do are like perfect learning material for our own team. And so I'm like, hey, just watch this webinar that I did kind of thing. So it is not that structured in that way, but we do have like some best practices and some blueprints we follow. And then from there, it kind of, like you said, depends on the client and how they go through it. But again, most importantly, and this is something that I've seen a lot from other agencies, is that we kind of want to go in and ask the questions as if we have like a cough that's been lasting for too long and we're afraid that we have, it sounds really dark, but like we're afraid we have lung cancer. So what we'll do is we'll go to the client and ask them, hey, are you making more money? Right? That's what we care about at the end of the day, is that are we able to make them more money? And sometimes that answer isn't great. But if we ask them early enough, we can treat it and be, much more in the clear. And so the biggest things that we do that kind of drives the learning experience for our account managers, but also like the execution side, is, are you making more money with us? Our fee included, yes or no? Like, let us know. If no, then we have to talk internally about how do we change that up, right? And can we scale you? Meaning, as we hit your goals, are you okay to expand? Like, do you want to grow? And that's something we handle in the sales process. But that one question, are you making more money, is something that so many marketing agencies don't ask. And if they can't tie it back to that, whatever they do, they become dispensable, which is the downside. That's why a lot of agencies struggle with retention rates, or what they deliver can't be tied back quickly enough to money being made or leads being generated or whatever it may be. And that's a challenge. So that's something that we focus on very, very aggressively for our clients. That kind of helps us, give our account manager that North Star on what they should be focusing on.
Right. That's a powerful question. Obviously, the fear that holds people back is, well, what if the answer is no?
Right.
When the reality is, if the answer is no, it's not like the client's just going to skip over that forever.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing too, like a lot of clients won't even tell you if you don't ask. And that's the problem too. They'll just like eventually say, oh, hey, we're done. You know what I mean? Or in the contract length, they're just saying, hey, here's my notice. And you ask your own account manager, what happened? Like, let's have a post-mortem here. And they're like, I don't know. I thought everything was great. Well, did you ask them that question? And they're like, no. Well, okay, let's start with that, and take it from there. And so that's like you said, that's a lot of people struggle with that.
Right. What does like a new client account, what does the team structure look like? We've had, there's some agencies who are like, hey, everyone's got a different skill set. We pull people in kind of on an agile basis as needed, and other people have kind of the pod structure. How do you guys organize that?
So we have a hybrid of those two you just said. So we actually just started doing a pod structure where it's 2 account managers to 1 designer. And then the expectation is that all account managers will know everything: search, social, display, video, when it comes to PPC. Now, some have, more strengths in one than others, which is fine. But we also, want them to kind of, again, learn from each other, and why we have that pod structure as well. So that's kind of how we have it set up. So there's no, I've learned too, like if we have somebody who's really, really great at social, well, I want, if that person fills up, then that's a challenge, because usually we do a lot of different parts of PPC channels for our clients, not just social, not just search, but all of the above. So I wouldn't want to, think that I'm stuck and I can't bring on any more clients because that person's filled up. So that's why we kind of say, hey, you're going to be challenged in all aspects as an account manager here, but for the sake of your own growing and for the sake of you just getting better at your craft. So that's kind of how we have it set up.
That's awesome. I'm kind of jumping all over the place here. But I've got a question. This is completely unrelated to the team structure, but more to the team dynamic and the culture side.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you do to intentionally to build culture or shape the culture?
Yeah, I think I personally play too much myself. You can ask anybody here. People don't get their work done on purpose because I challenge everybody at Mario Kart. I just walk out and I'm like, you're done. And I sound very much like a dick right now, but I'll pull the plug of their monitor and I'm like, you can't work anymore. Like, you have to come play with me. But I'm kind of joking, but I'm also, they think that I'm serious at the same time. So it's a very weird balance. But that's on the kind of extreme. So I do that a lot. I go out and we go to lunches. We have like a bartender come in. They know that I love to spoil at the same time. And the people who have been here too, just because of our growth, have seen a lot of, their own raises happen really quickly. as far as their promotions happen as well. And so the cool thing that we do here is we tie it all back to transparency. Everybody knows exactly how the company is doing on a monthly recurring revenue basis. And I say, hey, you can't make more money unless the company is making more money first. And that comes down to your retention and how you're able to do that. So I give them the ownership of their clients that they're working with. And then from there, like it's on them to either increase the value of those clients or just keep them on board. And so they feel very much a part of that, and also tying it back to saying, hey, if we go down in revenue, you're not going to lose any potential money or anything like that. But just know that I want you to be, I want you to have your skin in the game, because that's fair. Like that's logical. And I think that trust, me able to show them exactly how we're doing, the downfalls and the wins and the losses. We do that like on a monthly basis and look at them, and any bigger pivots, I like to call them, that we're doing as a company, kind of make them feel involved too. So trusting them, getting their feedback, and then actually using that feedback to make changes, I think makes them feel very, very involved. And then we just have a ton of fun. Like we're going out and doing, we're having a masseuse come in, a bartender come in. We're taking a party bus to go do laser tag, and then we're going to go to Dave & Buster's after for like our 2-year anniversary. So yeah, we have a lot of fun. If that answers the question.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's obviously, I think the culture thing obviously all starts with your own brand and the type of people that you bring on, but then what you do to promote and cultivate the values of your agency are a big deal. Right. So that's cool. I was like asking that question, just hearing like what people are actively doing, because the culture thing has become a huge buzzword, right, especially in the agency space over the last couple of years. And then asking people like, well, what specifically are you doing to help promote that? Right. Is always interesting to hear what people are doing, and I love learning from that.
Yeah, I think the people we have on board either help like amplify that, or they suffocate it, or they get suffocated themselves from the culture. So we actually had a person leave not that long ago saying that, like, hey, yeah, you guys are just playing too much. I'm like, all right, that's fine. We'll keep playing. And for me, I want to invest in our people here too, and being able to do that comes with like what I talked about, like that transparency and the honesty. So a lot of times too, like I have been told from people who work technically for me that I'm playing too much, and I'm like, thank you. I love that feedback. Like I need to adjust that and play less and have the more of a focus. So it's such a two-way street, but it comes from like walking the walk, not just talking the talk too. And I think you can ask anybody here on the team too, that they feel very empowered with what they do, and also knowing that like, hey, I'm a person. I tell everybody like, hey, I don't have it figured out. We're learning as we go along. You need to help me get better at what I do, and I need to help you get better at what you do. And that's all. We're a team, and I think a lot of people appreciate that. And that trust is the kind of seed to the culture, and then the culture takes care of itself.
Right. That's awesome. Well, this is going to be my last kind of off the wall question for you.
Go for it.
The sneak attack here. I'm curious to know. This is another question I like asking. Mm-hmm. Is about like what the first kind of what an average morning, like first hour, but take that and apply that liberally. That could mean like the literal first hour, or like what does a normal morning look like in your life? What helps you? What are the routines that you go through to prepare for the day and to lead your team?
Oh man, so the only thing that I really get ready that I've started to is starts from home, where I just like I lay out what I'm wearing the next day, so I don't have to worry about it. I can just get out the door, right, and focus. But then from the get-go, the entire day is just me constantly reprioritizing what I'm doing, because like a new person comes in, they say, okay, we're ready to go, sign us up, like we want to get started. Or I'm working on a course with like Conversion XL that I just finished, for example, on the PPC side. So it's kind of all up in the air. And the cool thing is I've been wearing a ton of hats, literally wearing just one right now, which is kind of cool. And I want to keep it that way. But over time, as we've gotten more and more people here, they're taking over their own individual sides. So I was doing sales and marketing and even some account management still to this day, right? Where that's going to be more and more something that I can like, put on somebody else's shoulders to carry on. So it usually just starts with looking at my email inbox, or if I don't have anything planned on my calendar and I know that I need to get to something, I'll write down a Post-it note of like 3 things that I want to get done. And then that's where I kind of try to focus religiously. But then again, I get distracted by Mario Kart. So it's always, it's a tug of war.
Got to balance it.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. It's cool to hear. It's just cool to hear everyone's got a different way that they kind of structure things, and Actually, I mean, one of the recurring themes is trying to, I guess, minimize the less impactful decision making that you have to do in the morning. So things like laying out your clothes. It's a super simple thing to do, but laying out what you're going to wear the next day, you're saving that decision making power for the following day for the things that actually matter.
Yep.
So
exactly,
dude, that's great. Now I don't know how Mario Kart using some of your decision making power there works into that equation.
Oh, it doesn't. It
frustrates.
It taps me from all like energy, and it frustrates me if I don't win. And lately, I've not been winning. So, and that's more the reason too that we kind of put like a specific time frame on when you can play Mario Kart and when you can't, because it helps everybody out.
I was just gonna ask, do you play any games other than Mario Kart?
So back in the day, I used to be a big, almost addict to Diablo 2, if you know that game.
Yep.
I would actually go on eBay, buy what they call mule packs, where it's like they filled up the character with items that you know are rare or like unique, and then I would pay like $30 to $50 for that just to kind of speed my way through the game. And it's kind of the problem that you have like with the iOS games now, like the Clash of Clans, like, oh, you got to wait until you get more resources. So don't like, I can't do those kind of games because I'll just pay my way ahead of and not, be patient at all.
Yeah, shortcut the system. Yep.
Yeah. So, but that was my big thing. And in Denmark, they had these things called net cafes where if you didn't have great internet at home, you can go to this place where people just played Counter-Strike or Diablo 2, whatever. And so I would spend like all my money at those cafes and just like, drink Coke and eat pizza all the time with my friends.
That is hilarious. I didn't know if I was gonna get if I was gonna get no. I'm the kind of guy who like the only reason I play one game is because that's the only game that I know, so I'm so much better at it than everybody. Or the kind of guy who spreads the resources around a little bit. And other people
I tend to focus on one thing at a time and then try to do them very well. But like I said with Mario Kart, it's been kind of like a losing battle as of late. So I might just quit it altogether.
I love this. Well, Johnathan, from Craigslist, from Denmark, playing basketball, Craigslist, Mario Kart, we've kind of touched on a lot here, and I really appreciate you coming on and being willing to share. I feel like I could just throw off the wall questions at you for 2 hours here, but want to respect your time and really appreciate you making time to come on, man.
For sure. No, thanks so much for having me. It's been super fun.
Thank you for listening to Inbound Agency Journey. You can find the show's notes for today's episode at doinbound.com/podcast. Again, that's doinbound, all one word, .com/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, head over to iTunes to subscribe or leave us a review of the show. Until next time, remember, life is a journey. Keep moving forward.